All right, so in order to get the column out, obviously we don't have to take a dash. All that stuff's already out, so it's very easy. But to get the column itself out, there'll sometimes be a clamp on the end of the boot, which is already missing. And then there's gonna be these two bolts here, and then these two bolts here. There's the matching one on the other side. Take those out, and the whole column will drop down. So that's what we're getting ready to do. I always like to go and put the nuts back on so you don't lose them. This gives us a perfect opportunity to look at why you have to replace the intermediate shaft when you go to manual rack. So because the rack is actually physically smaller, the universal joint on the rack itself, this part right here, which is what slides into this intermediate shaft. So this is, it slides up this tube, and then the other end of it here goes into this fitting. The issue is, when it's in its normal seating position, here, you can tell it's got plenty of space to fit this. It's got two flat sides, two round sides. So it's got plenty of torque in this tube to keep it secure, as well as the splines in the here to keep it secure. When you go to manual rack, this won't reach. It'll be short. So what you do is you get one from a Mark III Supra, the MA70s, and when you push these all the way in there, you can tell that is a lot longer than what you're going to even be able to get out of the factory one. Okay, so first we are going to go ahead and clean all of this dust and dirt off with a damp rag. So here's something kind of gross, like this looks all faded and this doesn't. Well, that's because it's actually just the dirt, grime, and skin from past owners pushing that button. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take this plastic shroud off, which is these 4 screws in the bottom of the steering column. Sorry, it's 6 holes. You want to be careful because there's like some pins over here that keep it attached, so you want to be really careful getting those apart so you don't break those. Otherwise, it'll always be kind of loose and floppy over here. So we got these off. We'll set these aside to get cleaned. Next, we're going to take this harness off just to protect it as we work and disassemble everything. So we're going to take these 2 screws here. So if you push these tabs, you should be able to open this door like that, and then that pops down. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and crack this loose. Actually, that was already loose. Go ahead and take the wheel off. All right, and this kind of leads to why I like to rebuild these. There's a bearing here in the bottom, down in there, and it gets very notchy. And this is a video, so you can't feel it, but I'm going to try to just trying to turn it as smoothly as I can. and you can see it's kind of jerky, and that's, you can feel it. It's like, it feels like it's got teeth in there. So that bearing it's got some dirt and grime in there, and it's the balls running over dirt and grime. So that's a very rough and notchy feel. So we want to eliminate that, because that does get translated directly to the steering wheel. So if you come on this side, you can feel the same notchiness from this side, exactly as you can on this end. And that directly gets translated to the wheel, all the way through the column, into your steering. We're gonna take care of that. All right, now once you have this fairly stripped down, there's gonna be 2 bolts. They look like this, located on the bottom of the column. There's going to be 1 here that connects the steel to the aluminum piece. And then if you roll it on the top of the column, there's 2 additional ones. So we want to take all 5 of those out so that we can separate all of these pieces. All right, so next we're going to take off this turn signal and hazards, cruise control switch, panel, whatever you want to call it, by taking these 4 screws out. Two on the top here, 2 on the bottom. This will just slide off. You can tell we've already got a broken cruise toggle or switch, but I think we might be able to fix that. Potentially, maybe. I like to go ahead and put these screws back. That way we know where they go and we don't lose them. All right, now if we look right here in the column, there's actually a C-clip. You can see a little bit of space here that's silver, and that's where the clip actually isn't. That's the opening in the clip. But it goes into a groove on the steering column shaft. So we got to get that C-clip out of the shaft, and then we can get the shaft out. So you can take some retaining ring or retaining clip pliers. Try to do this without getting in the way. But as you squeeze these, they'll expand that ring. All right, so I'm using a paper clip there. I just stopped it from going back into its little slot. And I'm gonna try to carefully pry up on it. There we go. All right. I'm starting to get that C-clip up just a little bit. All right. I'm going to take another screwdriver. And just kind of walk it around. Yeah, you're going to be stretching this C-clip a little bit, but it'll be all good. All right. See, now you can kind of see that groove in there, and that clip is above it. Next, we're going to take these 3 little screws. we're going to take this retaining plate off. And we can now see one of the bearings that we're going to want to either clean and repack or just replace. All right, so once you get this separated, you can pry the section apart. Like so. And kind of guide it back into its slot there. Oh, see, we've pushed the bearing out of the housing. So now you can get in here and just delicately pull this bearing out, like so. Now this is probably not going to be as bad as the bottom one. And yeah, it feels really smooth still. So we'll just repack this one and send it, because this one's a little bit safer, a little bit more hidden. The one on the bottom is definitely kind of exposed to the elements. So that's probably where the grindiness is coming from. And now that we got this bearing out, we can check again. And yeah, we still have all that grindiness in there, and that's the other bearing on the bottom. So now that we've got the bearing off, we can go ahead and pull our steering column and tumbler off. It gives us a good chance to look at how it works. Essentially, there is a little arm that comes out, and that falls into this slot on the steering rack, or the steering column. There's one on each side, and that's what locks your column. All right, so now we're gonna hold the bottom of the column shaft here, and we're gonna tap with a hammer all around this tube here to pull the whole shaft out. Okay, stop right here, because I made a crucial mistake and I want to highlight it. When the shaft comes out, you'll see that I hit it from the top here to push it out the end of the column assembly. That's a no-no. You don't want to do that. And that's why I was showing you the other technique beforehand. Lapse of judgment. The problem is this right here. This is actually a loose slip fit connection. So it will handle twisting force just fine, and it has to be basically pressed in, but it is to a certain length. So if you go ahead just hammering away at the top of this without any of these retaining clips and the support, you will collapse the column shaft, which is okay, but you got to then get a creative way to pull it back apart without damaging it. So take note of that. Really the only downside to that is you do have to have this column a specific length to have everything bolt up. So you're going to give yourself a bit of a headache. So yeah, just make sure that if you want this end out, you pull from this end, which means support this and push the housing with hammering like I was showing you. But don't hit from this end, because that's gonna pull. Since we had this end loose already, the pulling from this end really wasn't putting any force here. But it's just something to take note. So if you struggle and you find yourself having to use different methods to knock it out, that might happen, and that's okay. But just be aware that it's a very good possibility that you knock this out. So then you're gonna have to measure everything as far as the column and the tumbler and everything, and figure out your length and make sure that you pull your shaft back out to the appropriate length. So not ideal, but something to look for. So that's the shaft, and this is the rest of the column piece. now that we've got this out, listen to this. All of that sandy, gritty noise, that is all notchiness that you feel in your steering wheel. So once you have your C-clip out here, you want to make sure you have this piece nice and secure, the plastic piece. You don't have to clamp on it, just make sure it's sitting against something solid that you can push through. And you want to make sure you're pushing on this portion here, okay? Don't make the mistake of pushing at the end, because what you're going to do is you're going to collapse the entire, you're going to actually push this piece into this piece, and you're going to collapse your steering column. And then you're going to have to pull it back out, and it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a disaster. So don't do that. Push here. So I like to use a screwdriver or a chisel, like a dull chisel, and put it like that. Sorry, I'm having camera issues. So I like to use a flathead screwdriver like that and push down there. Oh. There it goes. And we pushed it off its race here, so we'll clean this up. Well, not the race, it's journal, I guess. We'll clean that up. And then we can slide our clip and our plastic piece off the end. Just listen to how bad this is. And it like hurts to turn. All right, so this bottom bearing, this plastic is actually part of this bearing. This is factory part, and actually I'll give you the part number here. These are not easy to find. And I'm remembering now when I did my older car, we actually just sprayed this with lubricants and worked it until it felt good. But that's the part number. It's a 30. B is in Bravo, S is in Sierra, C is in Charlie, T is in Tango, 01, B is in Bravo. I'm not sure what that C1 is for, but manufacturer is an NSK. I found a couple of these on the internet, but they're coming from really strange places all across the world, so I'm going to try to see if I can track down a supplier for these, and then I might actually just start stocking these, because this is a huge upgrade. I really believe in this upgrade, and if they're this hard to find, maybe this is an opportunity that I can help some people. Okay, and already now we've got movement that I couldn't do before. It never even spun an eighth of a turn. Now I can get it to do multiple revolutions. So that's a huge improvement. So, I mean, even if you just want to do that yourself, pull this apart and just douse this with some lubricant, I mean, it's going to improve your feel, but I really recommend replacing this bearing, and I'm going to try to track these down for you guys. So both bearings are made by NSK, and this is the top bearing, which is a Bravo 18 Zulu -1 Bravo 1. And then our bottom bearing is an NSK bearing, and it is 30 Bravo Sierra Charlie Tango 01 Bravo. I'm not sure what the C1 is for, but now you know the bearing sizes. If you want to replace them or if you want to rebuild them, either way, now you get the information. Get your bearings ready to go and join me for part 2 where we put it back together.